Howdy, gang. So I'm going to talk about something that I've never talked about before. So I'll try to keep it brief. And I don't want to bore any of you, but it'll be the last time I talk about any medical stuff for quite a while, if ever. One of the reasons I'm extra sensitive about this stuff is that I have an hereditary illness called porphyria. Porphyria is a very rare, I think they consider it a blood disorder. What it is in essence, in a nutshell, is I lack an enzyme in my blood to get rid of toxins, porphyrins. Porphyrins are the toxins that are burned off essentially from the food we eat, from anything we intake into our body. And I lack that enzyme. So those porphyrins have the opportunity to build up and cause a lot of issues. You can have peripheral neuropathy, which I have in many parts of my body, which is a pain in the butt when you're a musician. Intense, insane stomach pain, lower intestinal pain, more precisely. It can have psychological ramifications, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't I talk about this? Well, I don't know. I made a decision when this first happened over 25 years ago that I didn't want to be a poster boy for one of these things. I also didn't want people to feel sorry for me, and I didn't want it to hold me back. However, it does hold you back. The process that I went through to find out about this was more heinous and makes me sensitive about the medical industry. So what happened was, quickly, I went on tour in 1998 to Europe. My guitar player and I both got sick in the last few days of the tour, but it was kind of like a flu. And over there, they can just give you antibiotics. You know, you don't need a prescription for it. You can go into a pharmacy and get antibiotics. And one of the antibiotics we took was like an oral spray one. And I had a bad reaction to it. We finished the tour, but when I came home, I never got well. My buddy got well. I never got well. That's because what I was experiencing was much more than the flu. And the symptoms got worse. Again, the lower intestinal pain, sweats, chills, parts of my body weren't working properly. This was before I even got the peripheral neuropathy. It was very weakened. They didn't know. They didn't know what was wrong. Fortunately, my local doctor where I was living at the time was an ex-Navy guy and super thorough, so he didn't think I was crazy. But I ended up going to 37 different specialists. And all of those 37 specialists, all of them, other than my local GP, thought it was psychological. They were like, well, we can't find anything wrong. We don't know it was wrong. And they were pumping me full of medications, which we learned later all made it worse. Stuff like Librax, and I can't even remember all the crap they were pumping into me. All made it worse because when you have porphyria, you're very sensitive to medications, specifically certain medications. And those are the ones they were pumping me with. So I was getting sicker. I lost a ton of weight. I lost like 25 pounds. I was unable to leave the house. My career came to a staggering halt because I couldn't tour anymore. I tried to write songs and record, but I could work one day and not the next day. It was horrible. Finally, after these 37 specialists, I went to one doctor who was known as the foremost blood doctor in the world, Dr. Klein in New York City. And I went to see him, and he did all kinds of tests, like seriously, very thorough. And at the end, he's like, look, Ed, he's like, I believe you. I don't think you're crazy, but I can't find anything. And I'm like, oh, geez. And he's like, but listen, he goes, let me ask you something about your background. Tell me about your family. And I said, oh, well, my mother's Italian and they were all healthy. They all live into their 80s. And he's like, what about your father? And I said, well, my father's Norwegian. He's like, Norwegian? He's like, hold on a second. And he runs over to a bookshelf, grabs a book, thumbs through it and goes, I think this is what you have. Porphyria. So we did a DNA test, which is the only way to prove it, through Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. Bingo. Now, the funny thing about this is my wife had been telling doctors that according to what she could discern on the internet, from all of my symptoms. She had been telling them for years, that she thought I had porphyria. And they were like, no, it's too rare. He can never have that. We never see it. No, that's crazy. It's psychological and whatever. Confirmed with a DNA test. Not only did the DNA test confirm I have porphyria, but they could tell what region of Norway my porphyria was based. And no, just magically, it happened to be the region where my father's from. So it took 6 years to get this diagnosis, from 1998 to 2004. Once I got the diagnosis, and I had already moved to Nashville by then, in the middle of this process, I moved to Nashville. Fortunately, my GP in Nashville was really excellent as well. He really didn't believe I had porphyria. But of course, once he saw the DNA test, he's like, dude, we're going to do whatever it takes to keep you healthy. So that's been the journey I have been on since 1998. I didn't get the diagnosis to 2004. And since then, we've been really carefully, delicately dealing with this and trying to weed out anything that will trigger the illness. I'm much better now than I was then, believe me. I mean, I literally couldn't leave the house. But this is why I'm so sensitive about the medical profession. Every one of those specialists said I was crazy. And it turned out I had the disease they said I couldn't have. So it makes me obviously extra sensitive when I deal with stuff today. But the point is, there's a lot of incompetence, and we shouldn't have to go through this. We shouldn't have to be told we're crazy. We should get better service for what we pay for, and our doctors should talk to our healthcare providers more closely so that we are treated with respect. Dig?